What if the most valuable thing in your home during this summer isn't your air conditioner, it's the shelf you've almost forgotten about? Because while millions of Americans are focused on staying cool, something else is happening behind the scenes. The products people rely on most during extreme heat are quietly disappearing faster than usual. Not because they're being discontinued, not because stores are running out overnight, but because when temperatures climb, buying habits change almost instantly. At first, the shelves still look full. Then one weekend passes, a heat advisory turns into another, families begin stocking up, delivery trucks can't always keep pace, and suddenly the item you assumed would always be there isn't quite as easy to find. Most shoppers never notice the pattern until they're paying higher prices or driving from store to store looking for something they thought was ordinary. This year, record-breaking temperatures across much of the country have already pushed electricity demand, water consumption, and grocery spending higher in many communities. At the same time, retailers are adjusting inventory based on changing seasonal demand rather than keeping unlimited supplies on hand. That's creating a small but important window of opportunity. Because some survival items don't just help during a heat wave, they never expire, they don't spoil, they don't lose their usefulness. And once you own them, they're ready whenever the next emergency arrives. Today we're counting down 12 survival items that always work and never expire during a heat wave, and why buying them before July 8 could save you money, stress, and unnecessary trips to crowded stores. Some of these items cost less than dinner for two. One of them has quietly become one of the smartest emergency purchases you can make, and the final item isn't food or water, but it may be the one you'll appreciate the most if the power goes out. Let's begin. Before putting this list together, I looked at guidance from emergency preparedness agencies, long-term food storage recommendations, utility outage planning advice, and recent consumer buying trends during periods of extreme heat. One thing kept appearing again and again. Prepared households rarely spend the most money. They simply buy earlier, not because they're expecting disaster, because they understand that when everyone shops at the same time, prices often rise, selections shrink, and simple errands become frustrating. And it's something you can buy once and keep ready for years. But don't assume the first few items are the most important. As we move closer to number one, the financial value and the practical importance increase dramatically. Because one item near the end has helped countless families stay comfortable during extended power outages without using a single drop of gasoline. We'll come back to that. For now, let's start with number 12. Number 12, electrolyte powder packets. Most people think dehydration is simply about drinking more water. During a heat wave, it often isn't. When temperatures stay above normal for days, your body loses more than just water. Sweat also carries away electrolytes like sodium and potassium that help muscles and nerves function normally. That's why many people continue feeling exhausted even after drinking several bottles of plain water. A retired couple in Arizona shared online that after spending several hours working in their backyard during last summer's heat, they kept drinking water but still felt sluggish. Their doctor later recommended adding electrolyte drinks during prolonged outdoor activity. It was a simple adjustment that made a noticeable difference. The good news? Powdered electrolyte packets have an extremely long shelf life when stored in a cool, dry place. They're lightweight, easy to store, require almost no space, and unlike ready-to-drink sports beverages, they don't take up valuable pantry room. Another advantage many shoppers overlook is flexibility. Instead of buying dozens of bottles filled mostly with water, you simply keep a small box of packets and mix them only when needed. That saves space while reducing waste. If your household spends time gardening, walking pets, working outdoors, or caring for elderly family members, having electrolyte packets available can be surprisingly useful. Buy enough for your household not because shelves are empty today, but because they're inexpensive now and likely to be just as useful next summer as they are this week. And speaking of things that almost never wear out, the next item has been helping families stay hydrated for generations without relying on bottled water at all. Number 11, stainless steel water containers walk down any grocery aisle before a heat wave, and you'll usually see shoppers reaching for cases of bottled water. Very few stop to think about the container itself. A quality stainless steel water bottle or insulated jug isn't just reusable, it's practically permanent. Unlike disposable plastic bottles, stainless steel resists cracking. Doesn't absorb odors, and can last for decades with basic care. Many families discover this after buying one for camping or hiking. Years later, they're still using it. One warehouse employee recently described how demand for insulated bottles quietly increases every time temperatures spike. People aren't replacing broken bottles, they're simply realizing they don't own enough. That's an important difference. During prolonged heat, keeping water cooler for longer means drinking more comfortably throughout the day, especially during power interruptions when refrigerators aren't performing at their best. One father in Texas mentioned that his family began freezing water overnight inside reusable bottles before particularly hot afternoons. Even after several hours outdoors, they still had cold drinking water. Simple idea, big improvement. Instead of spending money repeatedly on disposable bottles, consider investing in durable stainless steel containers for every member of your household. It's a one-time purchase that pays for itself year after year. But water alone won't solve another problem many families overlook until temperatures become dangerous. Because keeping your body cool is only half the challenge. Keeping your home cool can become much harder. And the next item quietly helps with both.
Number 10, Mylar emergency blankets. At first glance, they don't look impressive. They're thin, they're lightweight, and they cost only a few dollars. Most people assume emergency blankets are only useful during winter. That's exactly why they're so often overlooked during summer. But emergency responders have used reflective blankets for years because they don't just help retain warmth. They also reflect radiant heat. Placed over windows receiving direct afternoon sunlight, they can help reduce heat entering a room. Used as temporary shade during outdoor activities, they create an additional barrier between people and intense sunlight. They're waterproof, compact enough to fit inside a glove compartment, and when folded correctly, they take up less space than a paperback book. A grandmother in Nevada said she originally bought a pack for her emergency kit after seeing them recommended for winter travel. The following July, a neighborhood power outage changed everything. With no air conditioning for several hours, she used the reflective blankets to cover west-facing windows during the hottest part of the afternoon. She later said the rooms stayed noticeably more comfortable than expected. They're also incredibly durable in storage. Unlike many emergency supplies, they don't spoil, they don't expire, and they don't require maintenance. Once they're packed away, they're ready whenever they're needed. It's one of those purchases people rarely regret making. And as useful as these first three items are, we've only begun uncovering the bigger pattern. So far, we've focused on hydration and staying cool. Next, we're moving into supplies that can help protect your food, your household budget, and your comfort if a heat wave lasts longer than expected. Because number 9 solves a problem that many people don't think about until the lights suddenly go out. Number 9, water purification tablets. Imagine this. The power goes out during a heat wave. At first, nothing seems unusual. The lights are off, but the faucets still work, so you assume everything is fine. Then, a boil water advisory is issued after a water main breaks or a treatment plant temporarily loses power. Most people have never experienced that situation. But communities across the country have faced temporary water advisories after storms, flooding, equipment failures, and infrastructure problems. It's uncommon, but not unheard of. And when it happens during extreme heat, demand for bottled water rises almost immediately. That's where a tiny bottle of water purification tablets can become surprisingly valuable. They weigh almost nothing, take up less space than a deck of cards, and remain effective for years when stored according to the manufacturer's instructions. Of course, they're not meant to replace your everyday drinking water. Think of them as insurance, something you hope never to use but appreciate having if clean water suddenly becomes harder to access. One camping enthusiast from North Carolina said he originally bought purification tablets for hiking trips. Years later, when a local water advisory affected his neighborhood, he realized the same emergency supplies he'd packed for the outdoors were just as useful at home. That's a lesson many experienced preppers have learned. The best survival gear isn't only for wilderness adventures. It's often designed for ordinary people dealing with unexpected disruptions. If you decide to buy purification tablets, keep them sealed in their original packaging. Follow the directions carefully and rotate them if the manufacturer recommends an expiration schedule. Because while this item is about making water safer, the next one is about protecting something people often lose first during a heat wave: their food. Number 8, reusable ice packs. Here's something many shoppers don't think about until it's too late. Ice melts. Reusable ice packs don't. Every summer, grocery stores experience the same pattern. Temperatures soar. People buy bags of ice. Outdoor gatherings increase. Power outages happen in scattered neighborhoods. Within hours, freezer cases are picked over. But reusable freezer packs quietly solve several problems at once. They help keep coolers colder for longer. They can protect refrigerated medications during short outages. They make long car trips more comfortable. And they reduce how often you need to buy disposable ice. A family in Georgia shared that after several neighborhood outages last summer, they started keeping multiple reusable ice packs frozen year-round instead of relying solely on bags of ice. When the next outage happened, they simply transferred the packs into coolers along with milk, yogurt, and other refrigerated foods. It bought them valuable time before food temperatures began rising. That's something emergency planners often emphasize. You don't always need expensive equipment. Sometimes it's the simple tools that make the biggest difference. Another advantage? Unlike disposable ice, reusable packs don't create puddles of water inside your cooler. They're ready to freeze again once power returns. And with basic care, they can last for many years. But keeping food cold is only part of the equation. What happens if you're suddenly unable to cook it? That's where the next item quietly earns its place. Number 7, manual can opener. It sounds almost too obvious until you actually need one. Take a look around your pantry. Chances are you'll find canned vegetables, soup, beans, fruit, tuna, chicken, maybe even canned pasta. Now ask yourself one question. If the electricity went out tonight, could you open every one of those cans? Many kitchens rely entirely on electric can openers without realizing it. It's a small convenience people rarely think about until it disappears. One retiree from Florida recalled losing power for nearly 2 days after a summer storm. His pantry was full. His refrigerator wasn't, but his electric can opener was useless. Fortunately, an old manual opener tucked inside a kitchen drawer solved the problem. He admitted afterward that he'd almost donated it during spring cleaning. That tiny tool ended up becoming one of the most useful items in the house. A good quality manual can opener. Number 6, glass food storage jars. Most leftovers don't go bad because they were cooked incorrectly. They spoil because they're stored poorly. Glass storage jars have become increasingly popular among shoppers looking for durable kitchen supplies, and it's easy to see why. Unlike disposable plastic containers, glass doesn't stain easily. It doesn't absorb odors, and it stands up well to repeated use. More importantly, quality glass jars stored carefully can last for decades. They're useful during every season, not just emergencies. Imagine opening a large can of fruit or vegetables during a power interruption. You don't need everything at once. Having clean glass containers ready allows you to separate, seal, and organize whatever remains. Many people also use large mason jars to store dry foods like rice, oats, pasta, flour, sugar, and beans. It creates a pantry that's easier to manage while protecting food from moisture and household pests. A grocery manager once commented that many shoppers focus entirely on buying more food, but overlook the importance of storing it properly once they get home. That's an important point. Preparedness isn't only about quantity. It's about making what you already own last longer. Glass jars also eliminate another small frustration. You can see exactly what's inside without opening them. No guessing. No wasted food. No forgotten leftovers hiding in the back of the refrigerator. Little improvements like these save money over time. But even the best organized pantry becomes difficult to manage if you can't see inside it. Which brings us to one of the most underrated survival items ever made. Number 5, LED flashlights. It's easy to underestimate a flashlight. After all, almost everyone has one somewhere. The question is, can you find it when you actually need it? Summer storms often accompany extreme heat, strong winds, lightning, localized outages. Sometimes the lights stay off for minutes, sometimes much longer. During those first few moments, people instinctively reach for their phones. That works until the battery starts dropping. Experienced emergency planners recommend keeping dedicated LED flashlights in multiple locations throughout the home. One in the kitchen, one in the bedroom, one in the car. Another near your emergency supplies. Modern LED flashlights are remarkably efficient. Many produce bright light while using very little power. Some even run for dozens of hours on a single set of batteries, depending on the model and brightness setting. A homeowner in Oklahoma described searching through dark closets during an overnight outage while trying to find candles. Afterward, he placed inexpensive LED flashlights throughout the house. The next outage was far less stressful. No searching, no stumbling around. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. That's another recurring theme throughout this countdown. Preparation isn't about expecting the worst. It's about removing unnecessary stress from ordinary disruptions. And now we're entering the final stretch. The remaining 4 items become significantly more valuable not because they're expensive, but because they solve problems that affect nearly every household during prolonged periods of extreme heat. The next item, in particular, has quietly become one of the smartest purchases families can make before temperatures climb even higher. Number 4, solar-powered power bank. A few years ago, most people thought power banks were gadgets for travelers. Today, they're becoming part of many household emergency kits, and during a heat wave, they can make a frustrating situation far more manageable. Think about everything you rely on your phone for: weather alerts, emergency notifications, maps, family communication, medical information, flashlights, banking, even ordering supplies online. Now imagine losing access to all of that simply because your battery reaches 1%. That's where a solar-powered power bank earns its place. Unlike standard battery packs, many models can be recharged from sunlight when traditional charging options aren't available. Solar charging is typically much slower than charging from a wall outlet, but it can provide an additional source of power during extended outages. One family in Louisiana shared that after a summer storm knocked out electricity for nearly 2 days, their fully charged power bank became one of the most used items in the house. It wasn't powering televisions. It wasn't running appliances. It simply kept their phones working. That meant they could monitor weather updates, check outage maps, stay in contact with relatives, and receive utility restoration notices. Sometimes, preparedness isn't about making life comfortable. It's about keeping life connected. If you're buying one, don't wait until the forecast calls for triple-digit temperatures. Charge it fully when you bring it home. Test it every few months. Store the charging cables with it. And remember, the solar panel is best viewed as a backup charging option, not the primary way to recharge it. The goal is simple: have dependable power before everyone else starts looking for it. Because the next item protects something even more valuable than your phone. It helps protect one of the most important resources inside your home. Number 3, water storage containers. Most Americans assume water will always come out of the tap. Most days, they're right, but emergency planners have recommended storing emergency drinking water for decades, not because water systems frequently fail, but because short-term disruptions can happen for many reasons. Infrastructure repairs, water main breaks, storm damage, power interruptions at treatment facilities, even temporary boil water advisories. During a heat wave, these situations become much harder because your body needs more water than usual. That's why durable water storage containers deserve a place near the top of this list. Unlike disposable bottles that are constantly replaced, food-grade water containers are designed for repeated long-term use. Many are stackable, easy to clean, easy to rotate, and capable of storing several gallons safely when prepared correctly. A retired couple in Oklahoma decided to fill several food-grade containers after experiencing, but every few summers, they found themselves using that stored water for drinking, cooking, or simply washing their hands while local repairs were underway. They later said the peace of mind was worth far more than the cost of the containers. If you decide to build an emergency water supply, follow guidance from trusted emergency preparedness agencies on proper cleaning, filling, storage, and rotation. It's a simple habit, but one that removes a surprising amount of uncertainty. And speaking of removing uncertainty, the next item has been quietly protecting families from spoiled food for generations. Number 2, quality cooler. When people hear the word cooler, they usually picture camping, fishing trips, weekend picnics. But during a prolonged heat wave, a quality cooler becomes something entirely different. It becomes a temporary refrigerator. Every summer, thousands of families lose refrigerated food because they don't have a reliable way to keep it cold once the power goes out. Milk, cheese, medicine, fresh meat, baby formula, all of it becomes a race against time. A well-insulated cooler won't stop food from warming forever, but paired with frozen reusable ice packs or frozen water bottles, it can significantly extend how long certain items remain safely chilled. One grocery employee recalled seeing customers rush into the store after an unexpected outage looking for coolers that had been sitting untouched just days earlier. By afternoon, many were gone. Not because stores stopped selling them, because everyone suddenly needed one at the same time. That's a pattern we've seen throughout this countdown. The best time to buy emergency supplies is when they're ordinary merchandise, not when they're the most popular item in the building. Another benefit? A quality cooler serves dozens of purposes throughout the year. Road trips, camping, family gatherings, beach vacations, sporting events. It's not something you buy for one emergency. It's something you'll likely use for years. But there's still one item left. And unlike everything we've discussed so far, it doesn't store food. It doesn't store water. It doesn't require electricity. Yet it may become the single most valuable item in your home during an extended summer heat wave. Number 1, hand crank emergency radio. If every other device in your house stopped working, this is the one you'll still want nearby. A hand crank emergency radio doesn't depend entirely on batteries. Many models combine multiple backup systems, including a hand crank rechargeable battery, solar charging, flashlight, weather radio, USB charging capability, and emergency alert reception. When power fails, cell towers become overloaded. Internet service slows. Phone batteries begin disappearing. Reliable information suddenly becomes more valuable than almost anything else. Knowing where cooling centers are opening. Understanding whether an outage is expected to last 2 hours or 2 days. Receiving severe weather warnings. Hearing evacuation notices if wildfires threaten nearby communities. These are the moments when dependable communication matters most. A couple from Tennessee shared that after tornado warnings interrupted electricity one summer evening, their emergency radio became the only consistent source of local updates for several hours. No guessing, no rumors, just information. That's exactly what emergency preparedness is supposed to provide. Clarity, confidence, and enough knowledge to make good decisions. Many people purchase emergency radios after they've already experienced a major outage. Prepared households usually buy them beforehand, then hope they never need them. Because the value isn't measured by how often you use it. It's measured by whether it's available the one time it truly matters. And that's why it earns the number 1 spot. What to do this week by now? You've probably noticed something interesting. None of these items are flashy. None require special skills. And none are about expecting the worst. They're about making everyday life easier when temperatures become extreme. Instead of buying everything at once, spread your purchases over the next few weeks. Week 1, focus on hydration. Pick up electrolyte packets. Add a durable stainless steel water bottle for each family member. If you don't already have one, purchase a manual can opener. Small investments. Immediate usefulness. Week 2, strengthen your emergency supplies. Add reusable ice packs. Store several emergency blankets. Buy a dependable LED flashlight and extra batteries. Check what you already own before buying duplicates. Week 3, complete the bigger purchases. Choose a quality cooler that fits your household. Set up food-grade water storage containers. Charge a power bank. Test your emergency radio. Then, place everything together where every family member knows exactly where to find it. Preparedness isn't about filling an entire room with supplies. It's about removing small problems before they become big ones. If there's one lesson connecting every item we've discussed today, it's this. Heat waves don't usually create emergencies. They expose weak points that already existed. Maybe it's relying on a single phone charger. Maybe it's having no backup drinking water. Maybe it's assuming stores will always have exactly what you need. Most of the time, they do. Until everyone arrives looking for the same thing on the same afternoon. That's why informed shoppers behave differently. They don't wait for empty shelves. They don't panic buy. They don't spend thousands of dollars on expensive survival gear. They quietly prepare while prices are stable and selections are plentiful. One item at a time. One paycheck at a time. One smart decision after another. Because real preparedness isn't built overnight. It's built gradually, long before it's needed. And if this summer turns out to be less severe than expected, even better. You'll still own durable tools you'll use for years. That's never